والمشاركة في الحوار حول قضية هامة في مصر بعد الثورة، حيث أصبح الإعلام فجأة متهما بتعطيل المسيرة وبلبلة الأفكار، وزاد التنافر بين الإعلام الديني والإعلام المستقل، مما أسهم في زيادة حدة الاستقطاب السياسي في مصر، فيما يبحث الإعلام المملوك للشعب عن دور جديد بعد 60 عاما من دوره التعبوي أو تحوله لبوق دعاية للحاكم. نرحب بضيفتنا من مصر الإعلامية المتميزة لينا عطلة، مديرة تحرير النسخة الإنجليزية من صحيفة المصري اليوم المستقلة التي تصدر بعنوان Egypt Independent، ولينا كاتبة صحفية في عدد من الصحف ووكالات الأنباء البارزة مثل رويترز، كايرو تايمز، The Daily Star and The Christian Science Monitor، كما أن لها خبرات إعلامية متعددة في الإذاعة وإدارة عدد من مشروعات البحث في مجال الإعلام. نرحب أيضا بالدكتور عادل إسكندر، خبير الإعلام في مركز الدراسات العربية بجامعة جورج تاون، والمتخصص في دراسات الإعلام العربي في المنطقة وفي المهجر، ومؤلف أكثر من كتاب وبحث عن وسائل الإعلام العربية، مثل كتابه المشهور عن قناة الجزيرة وأثرها في إعادة رسم ملامح الإعلام العربي الجديد. نرحب أيضا بضيفنا الثالث الأستاذ محمد المنشاوي، مدير مكتب صحيفة الشروق المصرية في واشنطن، ومدير برنامج اللغات في معهد الشرق الأوسط في واشنطن، والمحلل السياسي لشؤون الشرق الأوسط، كضيف على شبكات الجزيرة وCNN وغيرها. سيتفضل كل ضيف بتناول جانب من جوانب تقييم الإعلام المصري ودوره المختلف ومدى التزامه بالأداء المهني ودور وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي بعيدا عن الإعلام الرسمي، والعلاقة المتوترة بين الإعلام ومؤسسة الرئاسة وجماعة الإخوان المسلمين، وما هي التوصيات التي يمكن طرحها لتطوير الإعلام. ثم نفتح مجال الحوار معكم والإجابة على أسئلتكم والاستماع لوجهات النظر. نبدأ بلينا.
أشكرك جدا وأشكر الحضور. أعتقد إني هتكلم بالإنجليزي علشان we have an American guest. Well, thank you very much for coming. I'll try to be brief and we make more space for a conversation because I'm sure also our audience will have some questions. I'll start off by talking to you a bit about the state of the media right now and the two main challenges that I perceive, which are both separate but also interconnected political and economic challenges. But like elsewhere in the world, information have been revolutionized in Egypt in as much as it has become extremely decentralized. The pipelines are no longer centralized or owned by one party or the other, and that's why it makes the process of blocking information a very complicated and intricate one. That said, we still are facing various challenges regarding the attempt to block information and to block the platforms and to tame voices, which becomes a bit paradoxical given the fact that this is a time when you shut down a media platform, others are born the following day in no time. Like I said before, I generally see the problem as mostly political and economic, and although those are two different things, at the end of the day they are highly interconnected. I'll start by the political aspect of things. Okay. that was a bit rude.
Not in Cairo.
I know. I know. All right. So it's unsurprising for all of us to know that there is no commitment from the ruling regime to media freedoms, and this is best manifested in the enshrining of clauses and articles in the Constitution that are not supportive or protective of media freedoms. And we followed, of course, the debate of the Constitution writing process, and there are. It's not just an illusion that the Constitution is extremely problematic, but at least 3 articles pertaining to media freedoms are extremely worrying. The first is Article 48, which basically which allocates for media freedoms, but also limits it to the confines of shady principles of state and society, national security, and public duties, amongst other things. And these notions, of course, in general, they have a worrying prevalence over the overall constitutional document, and when it comes to media freedoms, they become the easiest recipe for legislations and court cases that contest journalists' ability to do their jobs. The other problem, another problematic article in the Constitution is Article 215, which establishes the so-called National Media Council, which we haven't seen yet. The responsibilities of the Council, amongst a few other things, is mainly the preservation, again, of societal principles and constructive values, and that's ad verbatim from the Constitution. And again, these are shady principles, and if you have a National Media Council whose main mandate is to do this kind of thing, then it's basically its mission is to combat media freedoms in many ways. And then the spirit of limitations also extends to Article 49, which imposes legal regulation over the establishment of the platforms of radio stations, of television broadcasting and digital media. And the only exception is print media, which is now, luckily or fortunately, can be established with a simple notification. However, although we've been used to radio and television being highly scrutinized, imposing a licensing process over digital media is extremely worrying, and of course is a response to to what has been a highly democratic nature of the internet as a medium. So we're going to start seeing limitations on this platform even, which is extremely worrying in my opinion. So that's like on a higher political level, that's on the constitutional level. On the ground, even before the Constitution was passed, and even more so now, the universe of insult and blasphemy crimes in particular are particularly thriving, as you all know. You probably have read in the papers today before coming that renowned satire host Bassem Youssef has been accused of once more insulting the president and religion. And he was ordered an arrest warrant, which is very different from the usual summons that are addressed to reporters and journalists in general. So basically, he could be arrested anytime if he doesn't go and turn himself in. And this is of course this is one of so many cases that we've been seeing in the last 2 years after the revolution. Whereby those who were dissidents in the former regime of Mubarak remain dissidents by the very people who were at the forefront of the opposition one day. So it's no surprise that Ibrahim Isa, Mahmoud Saad, other renowned figures have been facing exactly what they've been facing before, as well as many others, younger journalists, bloggers, and so on. Another measure that is probably born to what I think is an Islamist elite that is not yet being able to formulate a seasoned and robust media apparatus on its own is to try and control what already exists in the media landscape, so namely state media. So we know, for example, that last summer the Muslim Brotherhood basically appointed, or the Muslim Brotherhood's affiliated Shura Council appointed the heads of 45 state newspapers, most of whom are basically known for their ties with the group. This is extremely worrying, and it already started, the connection or the control started already unfolding when, for example, in what was unprecedented in the history of Egyptian media, the chief editor of Al Jumhuriyya was actually sacked or dismissed after he ran news about members of the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces potentially facing corruption charges. The fact that he was dismissed is pretty unprecedented in the history of media and pretty worrying. More recently, of course, some of you might have heard about the sending to early retirement of progressive chief editor Hani Shukrallah, who used to run Ahram Online, which is another very important lifeline to the information in Egypt in English. And the sacking happened through the Islamist leadership of Al-Ahram, the new Islamist leadership of Al-Ahram newspaper. Now the problem with these things is that they keep happening all the time. We've been used to them, and they've created a culture of resistance in the ranks of journalists and so on. But at the same time, they've been also grooming a culture of